See, track conditions are absolutely perfect here, and it's a glorious sunny day here in the Rhine Valley. We're near Hockenheim in Baden-Württemberg at a track that was originally built back in 1932. At the time, it was 12 kilometers around and almost triangular in shape, and has been through a number of redesigns over the years. The current configuration, designed in 2002 by Hermann Tilke, and he to the right and 8 of them to the left. And conditions are absolutely perfect as we get set for our qualifying session for the Porsche Carrera Cup here. We're a little bit late getting going today. A few issues in the previous qualifying session for the ADAC TCR cars, but the track has now been cleared, and as you can see, the cars are coming round, getting ready to qualify for the 2 races this weekend here at Hockenheim. So it's been a long and hard season here, and we are starting race number 13. It's round 7 and the 13th race of the season. 13 out of 16, and we'll be seeing race 14 tomorrow, which means that after this weekend, it's just one more event left. That'll be off to Sachsenring on the 28th and 29th of September for rounds 15 and 16, where our championship will be decided. And the championship is very close indeed. Our current points leader, Julian Andlauer, with 197.5 points. As we can see, the cars just filing back into the pit lane. And very, very shortly, we'll be getting ready to go. So there you see the number 77 car. And that, of course, is Leon Kohler, just at the pit lane exit, getting ready for the green light with our number P2, number P2 in the points, Mikael Ammermuller just behind him. And Leon Kohler, who was fastest for much of free practice yesterday, and then in the closing stages was pushed aside by Luca Rettenbacher, not physically, but in terms of times, and relegated down to P2. But looking good this weekend. Of course, Leon Kohler had a weekend off at our last round in Nürburgring after that altercation with his teammate Sandra Kaibach in Zandvoort. But looking ahead now, and here we are. And as I said earlier, it's race 13 out of 16 this season, so the season, unbelievably, coming to a close. Feels like it's absolutely raced by, quite literally. So after this weekend, we're off to Sachsenring on the 28th September for the final event of the season, races 15 and 16, where our 2019 Porsche Carrera Cup champion will be crowned. So with a little under 35 minutes of this session, the drivers have a lot of work to do. Now, if you remember, it's business as usual. The fastest time today will start on pole position for race 2, which takes place tomorrow. And the driver's second fastest time will determine where they start race 1, which is a little bit later on today. And these crucial opening stages, just getting heat into the tyres and into the brakes. You see the Fortec teams pushing the cars out to the pit lane. Georgi Dontev, Gustav Malja and Jaap van Lagen. in that shot there as they come out of the pit lane and out onto this track. So we may have had a couple of technical issues earlier, so just to repeat what I said earlier, in case you didn't hear it, we are here at Hockenheim, at the Hockenheim Ring. It's a circuit that has 17 turns around its 4.574 kilometre distance. Of those 17 turns, 9 are to the right and 8 are to the left. Situated in the Rhine Valley near Hockenheim, a track that was originally built in 1932. And originally it was 12 kilometres around. And it's been through a number of configurations over the years. Its current layout, designed by Hermann Tilke and opened in 2002. And those long forested straights that used to be such a feature here of Hockenheim have been significantly shortened, but still an excellent track with lots of overtaking opportunities and has provided some very, very good racing over the years. So we've got 31 minutes left of this qualifying session, and at this early stage, drivers just focusing. You can just see there the concentration in the eyes, getting ready to put in the hot laps. We see Georgi Donchev smoking the tyres coming into the corner. And so impressive to see these cars bumping over the curbs. I was stood out on turns turn 1, I think it was, yesterday, and then turns 2 and 3, where the drivers were getting up onto 2 wheels, bumping over the curbs. Really impressive to watch. As we look at Julian Andlauer in the BWT Lechner car. And Julian Andlauer currently at the top of the points, but with 25 points for a win, he is by no means secure up there. 197.5 points is his lead, with Mikael Ammermuller in P2 with 174 points. And under the sunshine here at the Hockenheim Ring, we can see the cars just getting a timeout on the board, and the initial job really is to get a safe time on the board and then look at cutting the corners off that time as the session progresses. So riding on board with Julian Andlauer, can see quite a lot of rubber down on the track, and certain parts of the track quite slick as well, particularly up around turns 16 and 17, where the surface is especially slippery. There's a drag racing circuit that is part of the Hockenheim Ring and uses part of turns 16 and 17, and the rubber that's laid down there makes for very little traction for these cars as they come out of the final 2 corners on this circuit. As you can see, Julian Andlauer, the quickest of anybody in Sector 1, 22.403. And a very good Sector 2, but a brilliant Sector 3, 32.550. That gives him a very clear position at the top of the timing sheets. So it's Julian Andlauer who lays down the marker, our current points leader, the man who's got it all to do really this weekend. And Leon Kohler in P2. And he was the driver that was looking so good in free practice here yesterday. Andlauer's teammate, Mikael Ammermuller, and his most immediate challenger in the points, currently lying in P3, and he's about half a second off the current pole position time. But in 28 minutes, and with the track getting faster and faster, it's all to play for and lots of changes. Just looking at our timing screens, and car number 50 has had his time cancelled. That's Tim Zimmerman. And track limits being the issue. And track limits certainly have been an issue through a number of events this season. Just looking here at a replay of Leon Kohler just smoking the tyres, going into the corner and flat spotting those tyres, and that's going to create a lot of vibration in that car. We're riding on board with Julian Andlauer, and he's already improving his times. 22.319 and 46.437 for sectors 1 and 2. Sectors 3, not his fastest, but he improves his position at the top, opening up 0.3 from Leon Kohler. But as soon as I say that, Leon Kohler drops down to P3 because Mikael Ammermuller, who jumps up into P2 with a 1 minute 41.594, which is just 0.17 slower than Julian Andlauer. So the two BWT Lechner racing cars once again laying down the markers. And they really have been very, very strong this year. The man who started the season so strongly, Larry Tenforder, has kind of faded a little bit as the season has gone on. Currently in P4, and he's about half a second, just a little over half a second off the pole position time. There you can see Mikael Ammermuller and putting up a personal best in P1 with a 22.284. And looking very, very close to Julian Andlauer's times. Again, Mikael Ammermuller, personal best in P2, but not enough, I think, to close up on that pole position. So you can see him there just using the full width of the track. And the very distinctive pink car out of turn 17 and onto the pit straight. He comes through. Leon Kohler, in the meantime, has bounced up back up to P2. But Mikael Ammermuller, despite my dodgy predictions, does make it up into pole position. So Mikael Ammermuller, P1. Car number 1 in P1, car number 2 in P2. So Mikael Ammermuller, currently our provisional pole position sitter with a 141.389. Julian Andlauer down into P2 with a 141.420. As we look at Luca Rettenbacher, who was quickest in free practice yesterday, been looking good all weekend so far. But of course it's today when it starts to count. You can see him getting very wide out of the corner as he comes round. He's done personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 2. What can he do in Sector 3 to make a difference? Currently, looking at the timing screens to see where he is, and he is right back in P29. So definitely looking to improve on that as he comes around down to the pit straight. And just waiting for our screens to refresh, and up into P15. So for Luca Rettenbacher, a 142.484, just over a second shy of Mikael Ammermuller, who's our current provisional pole sitter. There's Leon Kohler. If you remember, he had a weekend off in Nürburgring after that clash with his teammate in Zandvoort, which saw Sander Kaibach rolling over onto his roof, doing a lot of damage to the car. And Leon Kohler getting disqualified from that event as we ride on board with Stefan Raykopf in the number 33 Porsche, and he's racing for Huber Racing. And he is currently our leading amateur driver at the top of the points, quite a long way ahead of Carlos Rivas, who is second in the amateur category. Of course, this is our main championship. Julian Andlauer, 197.5 points from Mikael Ammermuller, 174 and Larry Tenvorda with 154 in P3 in the championship. In our rookie standings, Jackson Evans currently has a very good lead over Berke Besler. Looking really good for the rookie championship is Jackson Evans. And this is rookie season here in the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. There's Carlos Rivas, currently pursuing Stefan Raykopf in the amateur category as he peels off into the... No, it's not him that peels off into the pit lane. And in fact, it's our leading duo that we saw coming into the pits. So, Carlos Rivas, currently down in P23, but he is the fastest of the amateur drivers. And as he completes the lap, and this time he really does come off into the pit lane. The number 6 car just peeling back in. We can see Dylan Pereira there riding on board with him. The other of the Lechner Racing team cars. Dylan Pereira currently 4th in the championship with 128 points. And on our timing screens, currently P3. So we've got car number 1 in P1, car number 2 in P2, car number 3 in P3. Unfortunately, we have no car number 4 here, so that pattern is not going to continue as we see Dylan Pereira going very wide out of the corner. Looking back, see how much he's fighting the wheel there. And traction has been a real issue for these drivers already today. Georgi Donchev just sliding the back end out, locking the right front tyre. The number 7 car currently down in 28th. Nearly 2.5 seconds off the pace. And with just over 20 minutes left of this session, we get that lull in the middle as the cars come into the pit lane and silence descends. There's Larry Tenvorda, who must be wondering what he's got to do to turn things around. It looked like at the beginning of this year he was going to have this championship sewn up by about June. Such was his dominance, with 4 wins and 1 second place in his first 5 races of the season, and then a P4 at the Red Bull Ring, and then after that it's just been really, really tough. He's had a couple of 4th places, but been caught up in incidents, just has not had the pace that he had at the beginning of the season, and has seen his championship lead eaten away, and now he's dropped back into P3 in the championship and some 43 points behind Julian Andlauer, and really looking for something of a miracle if he's going to get himself back at the top of the table. And really struggling to work out what it is that is caused him to lose so much pace as this season has progressed. We're looking there at the Matthias Jeserit car, the Team Car Tech by Nigrin in the AN category. Currently lying at the bottom of the timing sheets, 2.6 seconds off the pole position time. So this is that moment where most of the cars are in the pits. All bar 4 cars are now in the pit lane. And with the warm conditions and the rubber going down on the track, the circuit's just getting faster and faster as this session progresses. And as we get into the closing stages of this qualifying session, we're going to see the track get very, very crowded as drivers look to maximise the opportunity of a track that's speeding up and to come out and put in a competitive lap time. For those that are maybe towards the bottom of the timing screens, this is actually a good time with a clear track in front of them to be out and just finding a bit of space. And of those drivers out on the track, can see 3 cars, it looks like. So the number 7 car of Georgi Donchev has just come past our commentary booth, as has Yanis Fitcher in the 94 car. As you can see, a big row of Porsche 911s lined up in the pit lane. And into the pits comes Matthias Jeserik. So, with half of the qualifying session over, let's have a look, see what we've got. Mikael Ammermuller, currently our provisional pole position man, with a time of 1:41.389, and just 0.03 seconds behind him is his teammate Julian Anglauer in P2. And BWT Lechner Racing 1-2-3 makes the top 3, because Dylan Pereira is in P3 with 1:41.583. So once again, BWT Lechner looking very, very strong indeed. You see the drivers just looking at stats and trying to work out where to gain a little bit of extra pace. The first of the non-BWT Lechner cars is Leon Kohler. He's in P4, and he's about 2/10 off the pole position time. And Tony Wolff in the car collection number 14 car, who's having a very good weekend so far, currently in P5. Be good if he could keep that one together. Carlos Rivas is currently our fastest amateur driver, and our fastest rookie just looking to see who our fastest rookie actually is. And I think it's Yanis Fitcher who's our fastest rookie. So I had to do a little bit of scanning there down the timing screens to see who our fastest rookie is. So that's the number 12 car. And that's Jorn Schmidt-Stade. And he's come in with Team Allied Racing as a guest driver, and replaces Louis Henkefend, who's having a weekend off. Louis not had the best of results this year, but certainly been improving as the season has gone on. But he's having a weekend off. We're hoping to see him back again at Sachsenring. And Jorn Schmidt-Stade is stepped in the number 12 car, and he is the current reigning AM champion. So really good to have him here as a guest driver. And he's currently P26 with a time of 1:43.318. So 14 minutes this session left, and it's still fairly quiet out on track. And we can see Jorn Schmidt-Stade who's just making the most of a bit of space out on the track. And they're on board with Stefan Raykopf and the number 33 Huber Racing car as the team looking on. And temperatures here getting hotter and hotter. Currently the air temperature 23.4. And that is only going to increase as the day goes on. There's looking back at Larry Tenforder. Back in P9 is Larry Tenforder, looking to make up about 0.6 of a second, which is no mean feat in a Porsche 911 where the rest of the field are running identical cars. 0.6 of a second must feel like an awful lot. Visor down. We're getting to the stage where it's time to get back on track and see if we can do something about it. That's a good shot, that. Just see the team there getting ready. As you can see, the pit lane starting to wake up a bit now. 12 minutes of this session remaining. It's a BWT Lechner 1-2-3. Now, where have we seen that before? Seems to have been a bit of a running theme throughout the second part of this season. And the historic team, once again, who won here at this event last year with Thomas Preining at the wheel, won both the events. Once again, looking very, very strong indeed. And it would be a brave man who bets against one of those three, taking the spoils both tomorrow and Sunday. We're looking at Jaap van Lagen at the number 9 Force Racing car. And his best results so far this season, he's had a couple of P2s, one in Zandvoort and one in Hockenheim. And he would dearly love to make it up to the top step of the podium, going very wide. We can see several of the cars going very, very wide indeed out of that corner. As we ride with Mikael Lammermuller out of the pit lane. So with the track now reaching its peak state for this session, most of the drivers are heading out onto the track. The next problem is going to be finding space. So we've had 10 minutes where little or nothing's been happening out on track, and now it's going to be very crowded. And finding that space to put in a clear lap is going to be critical. So you can see just soaring the wheel, getting heat into the tyres, into the brakes, getting ready to start that flying lap to defend his pole position. And there's Julian Andlauer, our current P2 driver. The two pink cars, the drivers in the pink overalls. And of course, Dylan Pereira, who's also in the BWT Lechner car in P3. There's Jaap van Lagen. So, all eyes on the timing screens as we look to see who is going to be turning the screens purple. Of course, when our screens go purple, it means that a driver has put in a best. And you can see Jaap van Lagen there going really wide. That was what the replay was for. Going really, really wide there, right out onto the gravel track. And good that he kept the car going and didn't get bedded down in the gravel trap. And understandably coming into the pit lane to no doubt have a serious amount of gravel removed from that car. Tyres off. Some fresh ones that aren't full of gravel. So Jaap van Lagen, who is currently in P5, so he's had a very good session. Going to be looking to improve on that, though. On board with Mikael Lammermuller. See, nice clear track ahead of him. As he looks, he's going slowly there, but just trying to find some space, I think. I said a nice clear track in front of him, but then he slowed down on the parabolica and the rest of the field came streaming past. So that's around turn 6. You see a lot of cars weaving, and it really is quite busy out there. Like a lot of cars on this circuit all in the same place at the same time. They got 4.5 kilometers of track to spread themselves out on, and they all seem to be together in that one spot. So Julian Andlauer in P2, what can he do? He just needs to make 0.031 up to get onto that pole position. But Mikael Ammermuller, who has won 3 of the last 5 races, has currently got his name on that P1 spot. Unless Julian Andlauer can do something about it, or indeed Dylan Pereira, or indeed Leon Kohler. Seven minutes left. There's nobody setting the timing screens on fire at the moment, as drivers look to get tyres back up to temperature, brakes back up to temperature. And as we get into the last 5 minutes, we shall be looking with interest to see what changes will happen on our timing screens. So our leader, Mikael Ammermuller, Julian Andlauer, Dylan Pereira, Leon Kohler in P4. Remember, it's not just their fastest times, but their second fastest times that count as well. A driver's second fastest time determining starting position for race 1, which is today, and their fastest time determining a starting position for race 2, which is tomorrow. So it's all about getting consistently good fast laps in. So we look at Igor Veliko there in the number 37 car. And Veliko down in P14. See him again picking up the dirt. Plumes of dirt thrown up into the air. And of course, that's going to make the tyres a lot less sticky on the next corner. See him going wide there. So we see a replay of that. And onto the AstroTurf, into the dirt, onto the grass, back out onto the track. And that's that tricky turn 17. And you can see the black tarmac that he's just come off, which is the edge of the drag strip, which has caught so many drivers out and has little or no traction. I was walking on it last night, and it is like ice. Turn 16 and turn 17, so slippery out there, and it's a layer of rubber and oil, as we see Julian Andlauer putting in a purple for sector 1, and Larry Tenforder, you can see his times there in comparison. So Julian Andlauer, the first driver to turn the screens purple in sector 1, not so consistent in sector 2. That's Georgi Donchev picking up some dirt in front of him. And there's Larry Tenforder. So Julian Andlauer across the line and into provisional pole position. So Julian Andlauer goes fastest, so he's done what he needs to do. Mikael Ammermuller bumped down into P2, but he's going to respond now. So we're having a look, going to see what Mikael Ammermuller can do. So once again, the scrap amongst the BWT Lechner team, and Leon Kohler has jumped up into P3. Great driving from Leon Kohler as we ride on board with Mikael Ammermuller. Currently P2 and not looking like he's going to improve on that in this lap. So here he comes into the slippery turn 16, turn 17, and out onto the pit straight. You can see how wide the cars are going and need to be very, very careful, because track limits have been an issue, and the stewards here are not scared to take away lap time if they feel as though a driver has exceeded track limits. But Julian Andlauer is still fastest, a 141.316. Mikael Ammermuller in P2 with a 141.380. And Leon Kohler, great driving, up into P3 with a 141.473. As we ride on board with Mikael Ammermuller. Just looking in there, good side-on shot. And you can see how much rubber there is down on the track. You can see it there with the sun glinting on it. As we see Henrik Skoog, who's jumped up to P6. And that's Jaap van Lagen. Such a character as Jaap van Lagen. And a lot of drivers kicking up the dirt out of turn 17. Looking through the haze, we can see how wide the cars are going. And that's Jackson Evans. Haven't seen much of him today as he jumps up into pole position. Fastest time from Jackson Evans. Where did that come from? So, Jackson Evans at 141.256. Absolutely brilliant. Nobody saw that one coming. I didn't even see that creeping up on the timing screens. Has bumped Julian Andlauer into P2. So, great driving from Jackson Evans. Now, that's something that we weren't expecting. So, Julian Andlauer into P2. Leon Kohler's improved his time in P3, and in so doing has bumped Mikael Ammermuller down into P4. So, great lap from Jackson Evans. Really did not see that coming. And there's a car going wide. That is the number 1 car, and it is Mikael Ammermuller. So, traction at a premium. And that's why Mikael Ammermuller has not been able to improve on his P4. There's another one who's going very deep into the runoff area there. And is that Igor Veliko? Couldn't see quite who that was. So looking back at Julian Andlauer, with less than a minute of this session left, but it's Jackson Evans who steals the headlines with a lap. And don't know how he put that one together or where it came from. But he sits at the top of the timing sheets. Brilliant driving from Julian Andlauer. That's Alex Arkenacker. So we've got a replay here. And is this the Mikael Ammermuller moment? See him just locking up into the corner once the... Oh, and there's a car that's spun. So that was Alex Arkenacker, I think, that was pointing in the wrong direction. So riding on board with Alex Arkenacker. You can see here into the corner, under braking, locks it up, back end steps out, turns around, facing the oncoming traffic. Who's coming next? But Mikael Ammermuller, and this is when he needed it most, trying to get back that pole position that he had lost. And he comes around and he sees the Alex Arkenacker car there. There's yellow flags waving, and out wide he goes. And that lap for Mikael Ammermuller is wrecked. And the clock strikes 0. The checkered flag is out. And it doesn't look like anybody is going to be able to do anything to beat Jackson Evans. Brilliant driving. Jackson Evans, our fastest car, with Julian Andlauer in P2, Leon Kohler P3, Mikael Ammermuller P4, Jaap van Lagen in 5th, and Dylan Pereira, relatively lowly, P6 for him, as is Larry Ten Voorde in P7. So, drivers that had fared so well earlier on in the season, a bit further down the grid now. And Carlos Rivas is our fastest amateur driver. And he's in P25. And Leon Kohler in P3 is our fastest rookie. So, a number of names appearing on the timing screens that we weren't expecting. So, great session. And Jackson Evans definitely stealing the headlines, as we see jumping out of the car in disgust. Checker flag is out. And into the pits the cars come. So that really throws things open. Jackson Evans, our fastest time from Julian Andlauer. Our championship leader, Leon Kohler. Great lap from him up into P3. Mikael Ammuller, P4. Jaap van Lagen, Dylan Pereira, Larry Tenvoorde, and Henrik Skoog rounding out the top 8. And there's 9 to 16. Jean-Baptiste Simonauer, the other Lechner car, down in P13. Good to see Joey Mawson back with us again this weekend, by the way. P14. A good showing from him. And he's guesting once again here. And that is the bottom half of the grid. Alex Arkanaka, actually a very good P20 despite that spin. And there's Carlos Rivas, the fastest of our AM drivers. Bringing to an end what was a great qualifying session. Sprung up plenty of surprises. The Porsche Carrera Cup Germany is going to be back a little later on this afternoon for race 1, then race 2 tomorrow. And already it's looking like it's going to be very, very interesting indeed. I do hope you're going to join us then.